As far as with my family, the first person in my family that I came out to was my mother. And I went to, with a couple of friends, I went to the Pride Parade in Hamilton. And when I came home, she said, well, where have you been? And I said, well, I was at the Pride Parade. And she said, oh, are you trying to tell me something? And I said, well, I guess so. And that was pretty much the end of that discussion. We didn't really talk about it again for another 6 months, at which point she asked me if I thought it was a phase. And the struggles actually kind of started at that point, because it was clear to me that even though she said that she tolerated it, or she said that she accepted it and she loved me, I knew that she was ashamed of me in terms of other people knowing. She said, this is a private matter, this is a private issue, it's in our family, and I don't want you to talk about it, I don't want you to tell anyone. She specifically told me not to say anything to any of her family members, like my extended family on her side, my aunts and uncles and my grandmother and cousins and things like that. She didn't think that it was any of their business. And that's a funny thing, because they all had partners and boyfriends and girlfriends, husbands, wives, and they were all part of the family too. And so it was very clear to me at that point that she viewed me differently. There's sort of a wall between us, and it has a lot to do with my sexuality. It's just because she doesn't know how to relate to me. I've sort of created a world for myself where I have a lot of support. When I came to Brock University, I got involved with Brock Pride, and I met a lot of people, a lot of good friends through Brock Pride, and that's kind of, it's like a second family to me, these people, and that's my support system.
I had decided to come out on my 40th birthday, and the reason I decided that is my brother, who was next eldest to me, had died, and we had just buried him. And I thought I wasn't going to go through the rest of my life a fake. So I called all my immediate family. They didn't understand. My mother especially felt very lost about the whole situation. Couldn't seem to grasp what I was telling her. My father at that time said I was his son, and that's all it was going to be, and couldn't accept it any other way. My remaining brothers, 2 of them took it very, very well. Basically saying that now they understand. It makes sense to them. I had one brother who totally was against it and was not going to allow me to be anywhere around him, his family, his children, because I might corrupt them with who I was.
My 4th year of university, I met this guy, and he was fully out. He was older than me, very comfortable in his life. His family was very accepting, and I said, you know what, I want to do this too. So I sat down with my parents, and I said, there's something I really need to talk to you about. And I was really struggling with school at the time. There was so much, like I was dating someone, I was hiding it from my parents. I didn't know where I was going with university. They thought I was going to be dropping out of school. They maybe thought I was on drugs, or they just thought the worst. So I sat them down and I said, my exact words were, I know that I've been struggling a lot, and you probably think the worst right now, but I want you to know that I'm happy, and there's someone that is making me happy. And then they got all a little intrigued, and I said, and his name is, and they laughed, and they're like, huh, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah, it is. And my mom started crying. My dad wouldn't even look at me. He started watching, I think the Home and Garden network was on TV, and he would never watch that in his life, and he just sat there and looked at it and played with a towel in his hands. We fought for about 2 months. I was living with him for about 2 months. Everything under the sun that when you come out that parents could say I got. My dad asked me, he's like, well, have you ever been with a woman? I said, no. He's like, well, how do you know? Maybe you should find someone and sleep with them. My response was, maybe we should find a man for you and prove that you're still straight, because it's been about 45, 50 years now. Who knows? After telling my parents, I said, I want to continue telling people now. or they basically said, either way, they said, are you going to keep telling people, like, as almost a fear inside of them? And I said, well, yes, I plan to, like, this is who I am. It's not like I'm going to go around parading it, but if someone asks me, I'm not going to lie to them anymore. And they asked me, do not tell any more people, do not tell your brother. And then they said, can you imagine what our friends are going to think? Can you imagine us going to a party and them hearing that our son's gay? Like, do you ever think of us? Like, are you thinking of us in this at all? And I said to him, I said, this is my life. And I said, how can you be so selfish, for one, that you're asking me to hide who I am so that your friends could be accepting of you? If any friend has a problem with you, that your son is gay, then those are not your friends and they're not worth associating with. And that's something I've learned in my life, that if someone's not going to accept me for something this small, and I said, this is nothing that defines me. I still have my life, I work, I have my friends, my social networks, I have my family. There's one little piece of me that goes on in the bedroom, or who I choose to be with, that doesn't define me. If someone's going to make that define me, then they're not worth my time.